SFJ 4x4 Studios presents
in my oversized four-wheel drive Jeep.
a Jeep podcast starring industry experts.
Pure monosity. What? Say that again.
With mad scientist Scott Brown,
Use my drill press as a sort of lathe.
our host Neil Simpson,
If one light goes out, they all go out.
filled with shenanigans.
We are really professional with Jeeps.
This is I Speak Jeep. And you're off.
What do you mean I'm off? And
We're live, but
we're live.
Neil's joining us remotely and doesn't know that because the cue didn't hit him, I guess.
No, I did not. I did not hear any goats in
We didn't
sunny Charleston. Oh, you didn't either.
No.
Well, we'll do our thing regardless. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever, however you are joining us. This is the I Speak Jeep podcast presented by SFJ4x4.com. My name is Neil, and I am not in Grandma's couch studio.
No, he's
But-
not.
But there are a couple guys who are.
Well, you're floating in Grandma's couch studio currently.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
you're disembodied.
My disembodied self is there.
And Nate was
crazy.
first, so good morning to Nate. Then Amy, then Mudhorn Gladiator, which wasn't that Nate also? I could be wrong. And then Bill's good morning. Daddy Jeeps, good morning. Billy Joe Lineman, good morning. Mike Lentz,
Good morning.
good morning. Bill McWilliams, no goat for you. Nate, first and third on Facebook and first on YouTube. Okay, Nate is both of them. Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
boy.
he's playing. He's playing games now.
He is.
He said he's going to do it one way or the other.
See,
It's
we
like
know
the
that it's the
Jeffrey
same
Bug.
person, but if they start having a conversation together, and then Roy saying good morning as well.
Good morning to everybody. We're so glad that you get in there and join us, and get those firsts in on the day. And what a great way to start, your Monday off and talk Jeep and listen to some ridiculous shenanigans.
You're just in a good
as-
mood because you're in sunny Florida.
Well, no, he's in.
Well,
Or
I'm
you're
in
South
sunny
Carolina.
South Carolina.
Still
I'm
sunny.
in South Carolina now. I'm in a good mood because, as usual, I like pushing limits, and this past weekend has been nothing shy of that. And not only is it pushing limits, but then getting to actually like touch point our customers, and that is so very, very cool. So. For those who are not aware, who are not on my personal social page, we had kind of the roundabout way that the Hemi Jeep, which has been a labor of love over the last 10 years, basically, was ready to go home yet again. And the last couple times that it had been transported, the transport companies, just these rando third-party hauling companies, managed to royally screw up the Jeep for our customer. So this time around, we had an opportunity to cannonball down to Florida to return that Jeep. And then we have another customer who's on kind of the restoration end of things, who's been calling in to us for about a year, buying some parts retail. And they were more than excited to more than excited to be able to meet face to face with me and put it on the trailer and head north. So we're doing our single stop in Charleston, South Carolina. We stopped on the way down, and then while we were in Florida, so James, the owner of the Hemi Jeep, was an incredibly gracious host, has invited the entire SFJ team to their little piece of paradise, their little compound, which is super cool, which I'll elaborate on here in the future. And we stayed a night there, and now we're cannonballing back home after a quick stop in Charleston yet again. So we do have a beautiful late 70s CJ5 now on the trailer. Little Presto Changeo from the that 2001 TJ Hemi that came down.
Back into the comments real quick. We got Rogue Attraction saying howdy and be safe with the fires going on in South Carolina.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll talk about that in a second.
Bill McWilliams saying fresh made corned beef hash and SFJ 4x4 is the best way to view this.
Only if
yeah.
I got some.
I know where you're going to try to detour now.
Right.
Daddy Jeep says, so you are not road killing a junker home? How sad. And then Fred saying good morning.
Good morning.
Neil's sad too.
I am sad.
But he does really like playing trucker though.
As most people are aware, I am a frustrated truck driver, and I take such authentic joy in in truck stops and running the road and whatnot. And I gotta be honest with you, I enjoy it as much as I do enjoy driving the Jeep. So this is it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, honestly.
We got a Jason jumping in saying good morning as well, and I'm not even going to attempt to say the last name. It is as bad as mine.
Oof. And for clarification, just so all of our listeners and followers understand that when you first became part of met us, became acquainted internally, we called you as a customer. We called you internally Chimichanga because.
We did.
There was no way, shape, or form we were pronouncing your last name at that time.
Especially me.
especially in that scientist. Oh man.
So we should really talk about the fact that you are remote, and sitting next to me in your spot is the mad scientist Scott Brown, and then I obviously am Jeff Shermani.
Do you notice that Scott's been moving closer and closer to Grandma's couch? I mean, he's doing.
You know what's really nice about Scott sitting next to me? There's not a foot constantly on my leg or knee.
You're going to be careful. There might be a hand on your leg or knee next.
He's a cuddler.
I'm going to invade your hole.
Do we need the little privacy dividers like you get between urinals between us now?
Geez.
Oh, goodness.
I'm just trying not to infect Jeff because I've been under the weather.
So why are you sitting next to him then if you're trying not to infect him?
That's where I was ordered to sit.
That was Davey.
Just being a good, obedient mad scientist.
That's the savage. Speaking of the mad
really
scientist,
wants us to share all the germs.
That's really his MO from from SEMA 2 years ago, and he tried to sharing is caring with you and Greg.
Yeah, that was not caring.
And infect you. So I know we're supposed to be talking about Suspension Chronicles, but I absolutely have to kind of continue to share and kind of brag on the type of relationship that we try to establish with our customer base and folks who want to kind of join our family and live the Jeep life with us. So, it's unfortunate because originally I had thought that we could be doing this podcast from James, who we talked about a couple podcasts, and then there's a YouTube video and lots of social media around from his space. And he is the most spectacular space that hard work and sweat and, some sweat equity and elbow grease has built. A little bit of a dream. He's moved all around not only the country, but the world in the process of kind of centrally locating himself in Florida. And he and his wife, Millie, were incredibly gracious hosts. Again, have invited our entire team down. He's right outside. I don't know if you guys can hear the jets going over. It's kind of loud on my end.
We can hear him.
Okay.
I was just trying to see if I could knock some of that noise down with our filters on our end, and I can't.
Yeah, so where I'm currently, stationed overnight is just underneath or just outside of the Charleston International Airport. So, anyways, James and Millie's property, they have actual legitimate Airbnb on site. And then they actually have two tiki huts, which is just this kind of like spectacular Better Homes and Gardens rear porch deck patio area. And then James has just this envious 4080, I want to say, man cave shop where he's got two Volkswagen bus projects, one with a Subaru engine that actively is their beach cruiser, MR2 project or MR2 race car, which we all in the shop have seen run and drive and race. Beautiful CUDA with a built 440 from Chad Gollin out of New Hampshire. We've talked about his product offering before. But all of that aside, and James is actually an avid podcaster himself, with specifically like radio and communication field. And he showed me his studio, and man, is it cool. So it was really cool. So I think that I'm a little disappointed because I thought James would join us on the podcast, or we'd be podcasting from one of these beautiful locations he has on his site, or he's only about 5 miles as a crow flies from the East Coast Florida beaches. And,
So we could watch you get a shark attack live?
You are feeling sassy today, aren't you? You are.
You started off with Time Blind.
Well, and that's really part of the conversation. But anyway, so big shout out to James, and he has invited the whole team down, and maybe we'll make that a reality. And they fed us and they housed us, and it was just a fantastic experience. And he is loving having his Jeep back. And it's just always a cool piece about James and Millie. I always like to reiterate, it's a 2001 TJ. That thing has been, he said that is the only new vehicle he ever bought in his whole entire life. I thought that was kind of neat, talk about prioritization and what he's been able to do with it at this point,
Now, he's also real close to Jeep Beach, right?
And that's what I was saying. Yeah, if I didn't, he's literally just down the road from the actual Jeep Beach in Daytona. So he's kind of in this in-between space between Daytona and Orlando.
So what I heard is we're going to do a podcast field trip and podcast from his studio during Jeep Beach.
He would be more than happy to make that a reality for sure.
I know he's excited about that. He's talked about it before.
Yes. Yeah. And we should. And then, so the challenge is, in that time blind conversation, under normal driving circumstances, we can bomb from the beautiful shores of Lake Erie to Charleston you're supposed to be able to do it in 12 hours. The best I can do it is 13 hours with a truck and trailer. So we can bomb to
That's
Charleston.
Still pretty good.
Yeah, it's a haul, but I've done it, right? So here's the flip side. So when you look at the map, Charleston to Florida looks really close. Real close. I'll be honest with you.
It's a state away.
It's just a state away and a small part of the state.
Yeah.
So James was actually an additional full 5 hours south
into Florida.
South into Florida, and so that would have been a straight drive of if I did it actually straight, just under 18 hours, which I'm not that tough. So I started to see the problem with my time blindness when I thought I was just going to be able to go straight to James and from James straight back to the Cleveland, Ohio, basically. That was not so much the case. And then on top of things, this customer who we've been talking to for just under a year, they were actually an additional 3 hours south of James.
Florida's very long.
Florida is very long, I've discovered.
It's a skinny state, but it's long.
It's very big. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. So not only apparently am I time blind, but I'm a little bit geography blind in my planning. and obviously overly optimistic. So I was just going to be able to make that little hop, skip, and a jump down to Florida with pretty much just a nair of concern and just kind of, adding an hour or two to my day. So I'll tell you this, like our drive down was pretty uneventful, realistically. We did run the International for folks who may or may not be familiar. Call it the Black Beast. It's an International 4900 crew cab, 466E. It's a little hot, pretty cool little truck, 5-speed manual. The gearing on it sucks, but it's such as life. And then big shout out to Scott Lindquist of the Jeep family, because I was able to borrow his trailer. It was the newest in the fleet of trailers that also wasn't occupied by other junk and projects like Scott and I have our trailer.
But it was perfectly fitting that it didn't have a working light when I got it to the shop.
It was perfectly fitting that it didn't have a working light, and that the spare had at one point in time been removed because hauling too big of a Jeep impeded the spare. Was impeding the Jeep parking on the trailer.
Did it ride down in the back seat the whole time?
No, I took it out and I precariously strapped it to the deck of the trailer. Right.
Oh, Donna's saying hi from Key West.
Donna. Yeah, I know Donna and Jeff are going to be down here at the same time. Our painter is down here. I thought it would be fun. We have a little SFJ reunion.
That would have been
sometime
fun
in the future. We'll have an SFJ cannonball run in some capacity. Anyways, the spare rode down precariously strapped to the deck of the trailer. Everything was pretty fair. The drive down relatively uneventful. So then started our excursion 2 days ago down to Central Florida, and everything was going good enough. Now, I'm not built for the heat, and I think that's a big challenge when it comes to your immediately changing climates. Mm-hmm. That's always something that hard to kind of keep in perspective.
Well, what was the temperature when you left? Wasn't it like 20 degrees here when you left?
100% agreed. Yeah. Right. And it was pushing mid high 70s when we left Charleston, headed south into Florida. Okay.
It sounds to me like he's rubbing it in that he's got warm weather, not that he's complaining about the warm weather.
Hop, skip, and a jump. Now, if people are not familiar, the AC pump on the Big Black Beast. Now, I've never had good functioning AC in just about any vehicle that I've owned, because quite frankly, I kind of don't care. I'd rather be topless, doorless, and so on and so forth. But the big truck, I wanted AC. So that was one of the things we made sure that worked a couple of years ago when we picked up the truck, had it recharged, so on and so forth. But the pump itself gave up the ghost either going to or from Toledo Jeep Fest last year, which was awesome. But because we live, along Lake Erie, kind of figured that was a May problem for me because, I wasn't worried about the AC pump because we don't, why? We don't really need that. We do when you're driving into Florida. Let me just say that. So we were doing pretty good, making pretty good time until we got just south of Savannah, and I-95 turned into an absolute parking lot party. Mm-hmm. And it was jammed up with thousands and thousands and thousands of vehicles trying to get onto the highway. We were in this like big cluster of entrance ramps, and we sat for an hour and a half on the hot tarmac of the highway with the truck. In the black truck. We had a friend with us at the time. We had her dog, we had our dog, and my wife. So 3 of us in the truck, 2 dogs, and we're cooking in the black truck without AC on the highway.
All the windows down and not enough.
Not enough, right? And we're just barely rolling along.
Donna said you can buy her a beer.
Perfect. Next time. So we took us 52 minutes to go 3 miles. And about that time, we decided that we were going to we were going to try and ask one of the big rig drivers near us what the blockage was and how long it was going to be. So in true fashion, my wife, who is just an incredibly endearing soul, hangs out the side of the truck. Now, if you've listened to any of our
I was
other...
gonna say, it wouldn't be a story with you guys if this didn't happen.
If you've listened to any of our other stories with us running south, and the moment my wife hangs outside the truck, something's going to happen, right? And she's trying to catch this guy's attention, but he has another person in the passenger seat with him, and they were not rolling down their window. I'm not sure what they thought we were trying to do, but she was just like trying to motion him nicely, and like apparently that was like her smiley face. But they were like, all they wanted to do was let us cut in front of them. He was like saying like, no, he wasn't going to roll the window down and stuff, you know? So I was like, all right, I'm over it. I'm going to cut in front of him. Got in front of him. We got off an off ramp. Thus ensues a backcountry tour of southern Georgia, of the Florida-Georgia line, if you will, where it takes us an hour west into the, into the state to try and go around this blockage on I-95. As we are traveling in west, we're finally getting some motion in the ocean. The truck's running good. The trailer's doing good. And boom, I hear a crazy noise. I look behind me, and one of the tires on the trailer has decided to, check out of the chat.
Well, good thing you had that spare.
Good thing I had the spare, right? So, you know what?
So what I hear is you don't just break my trailers, you break other people's trailers too.
Ain't that the dang truth? Isn't that the truth? And I mean, I just couldn't. I drug that spare concrete for, I don't know, miles until I could find a turnoff, because I'm in the depths of some 2-lane in nowhere southern Georgia, right? So I'll be honest with you. I had totally a Christmas Story dad moment, a National Lampoon dad moment. I was like, time me. I got pulled out the Milwaukee Impact. I knew where the spare was. You know what I don't have on the truck of the trailer?
A jack.
A jack. A jack.
You use a curb.
Back country, Florida, Georgia line, Scott.
Sounds like
Ain't
a big rock.
curves where I was
Find a
going.
big rock.
Looking for rocks, looking for alligators. I don't know anything, right? So,
Well, how's that work with an alligator? You step on the tail, its jaw opens, it lifts the trailer
that's what
for
I'm thinking. I'm desperate at this point. But you know what I found?
you. You should have found skunk ape. That would have helped you.
Ooh.
Oh,
Just picked
well,
it up.
well,
Uh-oh.
the Squatch Hunter has that handy dandy high lift jack hanging off the side of it.
Uh-oh.
And sure enough, I zipped that off, found me an adjustable Ford wrench in the toolbox, got the high lift jack off, jacked the back of that trailer right up with the Jeep on it, and had that spare changed, while my wife, in all her beautiful pink sundress, blockaded the other, semis and other yahoos who are trying to do this bypass around the blockage that is, 2+ hours long to get around it. And
So they were,
our
they were
friend
trying to
was-
get away from the blockage to find that you were blocking the bypass.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. And so my wife in her pink sundress is like, well, if you're going to be out here and get hit by a distracted driver, I'm going too. And meanwhile, our friend is in the back of the truck. She's hanging out the other side of the window yelling, that's the cutest pink traffic cone I've ever seen.
They're coming for you. I hear the sirens.
Well, that's just Charleston. Welcome to Charleston. Up and coming. It's great. Anyways, back on the road, we find this delicious little place called the Rusty Pig Barbecue, because
It's right
you're
up
in the
your
South.
alley.
Why not? What's that?
Right up your alley.
Right up my alley, the
I was
Rusty
gonna say,
Pig.
that sounds like exactly where you would dine.
100%. And we did again eventually get in late to to James's compound, and it was everything that I could hope for. And they were incredibly gracious hosts. Very good time. I had this other fantastic drive the next day down to just north of Miami, not quite just north, but north enough. And I don't want to occupy all the time, so I'll have to maybe share that story later. But I thought that it was really valuable to have the spare. And I guess I'll say this piece because some people are following along on my social with some of the stuff that I was getting myself into. I thought it was valuable to get the spare and not fixed, right? So I want to have a spare to make the return trip. And, we kind of game planned before I left the house yesterday, James's house, that there's a Firestone down the road. So I'll go to the Firestone. So the trailer tire is a 205 75 15. Scott, wouldn't you say that's used to be one of the most common tire sizes in like the history of automotive?
Pretty much.
I was going to say that sounds pretty common.
Or even an interchange, right? 215, 70, 15, something along those lines.
Yeah.
Do you know what doesn't exist in the entire state of Florida in the Firestone distribution system? That doesn't exist. So I said, thank you very much in the most, Southern hospitality fashion. And I went to find myself a Walmart. I called the first Walmart that popped up that I thought I was close to. Had a nice conversation with a gentleman there. Had a whole conversation about it. He had to go put his hands on the tire because want to check their inventory. And he said, "Yes, sir, we've got one. You can come in, get it mounted up, pick it up, and be on your way." I said, "That sounds perfect." I got off the phone to find out that Walmart happened to be a half an hour north of where I currently was, and I was headed south already. So I thought, okay, well, that's not going to happen. So I called the wrong Walmart, what it comes down to. I decided that since that Walmart had it, the next Walmart would certainly have one. And but it did. Okay. So the thing is, I found the next Walmart with an auto care center, and I just randomly showed up there. I picked up a couple necessities, and I stopped off. Sorry, playing again. I stopped off at the auto care center, and I said, "Hey, I have a wheel." Oh, James did a beautiful job cleaning up the wheel. Honest to Pete, did a beautiful job. You couldn't even tell that I drug it, 10 miles on the rim and blew the tire to smithereens, leaving Road Gator alongside the Florida-Georgia line. But anyway.
Don't admit it.
It's spectacular. There's no bridges destroyed in Pennsylvania by Chuck Norris, I promise.
Yes.
Anyway,
proof.
no proof.
I deleted the dash cam footage. I mean,
what? No. And for our listeners who's not familiar and you don't get the inside joke, I absolutely took out a bridge with a high lift jack hanging off the top of Chuck Norris, which was my Jeep, now Scott Lindquist Jeep. I don't want to do inside jokes, folks. I want you to binge all of our previous podcasts, but with so many listeners coming in
and enjoy all the failures that we've done.
And I like to tell people we fail for you so you don't have to make these same mistakes. Go make your own mistakes. But
what was the lesson to be learned off the high lift Jackton bridge?
You don't put a tall Jeep with a very tall jack on top of a very tall trailer on the back of a very tall truck.
Wow, that's true. That is all very true. All right.
Of all the Jeeps you could have put on the top of that trailer, that was not the one to put there.
It was not the one.
Fine, just a jack.
It wasn't just a jack.
No, it was the bridge's fault. Let's be honest.
Do better, Pennsylvania.
2025. It's the bridge's fault. So I stop at the first Walmart that has auto care center. All right, I bring this wheel in. James did a beautiful job. He even hit it with appropriate gray DTM paint adhesive to seal up any abrasions and all the cleanup that he did with the file and everything. Okay. How long does it take to mount a trailer? It doesn't need balance, folks, right? I mean, trailer wheels, it's okay if you balance them. I have balanced wheels on some of my trailers. I didn't even want them to balance this, right? How long does it take for them to balance? Or excuse me, how long does it take for them to mount? I had already done that.
Should have been 15 minutes to 20 minutes tops if that's where they struggled.
2.5 hours.
Two to 2.5 hours.
Yep.
I
I've
said,
been
thank
to
you
a
very much.
Walmart service center before.
Walmart Service Center, folks.
Yep.
And you know what? Thank you that they were open on Sunday. I can appreciate that. So
Now-
beggars can't be choosers.
My question is, did it take them that long to mount the tire, or did they have other stuff going on and they just couldn't get to it right away?
So interesting thing that I learned just from a business owner standpoint, people, I don't know it because I've been out of the Walmart Service Center world for a really long time, obviously. They start a repair order, a service ticket. So whatever you're in there for, oil change, brake job, just vehicle inspection, whatever. The moment you as a customer sign to accept the service, a timer starts. Their on-site mechanics are then timed and rated and then, compensated of sorts on their timed service metric. So if I would have asked them to just take the 3 minutes that it takes to, throw the tire onto an already, prepped and ready wheel, that would have only extended their timed metric, which they were already an hour and a half behind what they had, what Walmart Auto Care had said they were permitted to be. So there was kind of no way that they were going to shove my little trailer wheel ahead on their schedule, because once you start the clock, they claim there's no way to stop it. The way that corporate America works, it wouldn't surprise me,
Yeah.
But an interesting thing nonetheless, and some insight to how they manage themselves. But you know what? I said, that's fine. I'm going to head south. I'm going to actually be traveling back up this way in a few hours. I will stop back in and get it. Okay. So I want to, like I said, I don't want to consume the entire, because I do want to talk about some suspension, but I head down to this, the home of Rob and Teresa Passander, which, has a beautiful CJ5. They did bake us fresh, hot chocolate chip cookies. They won't be hot by the time I get back to the shop, but they did. They told me that they weren't going to tell that they made them. If I wanted to eat them all myself, that I could. Now, in a fit of desperation and sadness, I ate my feelings in the middle of the night last night. So I did have quite a few of those cookies, but I promise I'm bringing some home, right? I'm going to bring them back to the shop. But they had cookies there waiting for me, and the Jeep was outside. It's a beautiful kind of a East Coast resort town, which they've done a lot of sweat equity themselves, bought a fixer-upper, and made a very good life for themselves. And they are sending a Box-O Jeep, right? We've talked a Box-O Jeep before on the podcast, and what the mad scientist does. And I thought it was so cute because when I got there, there was a sign hanging on the Jeep. It was on the floorboard, hanging under there, that said, the Jeep is telling us what it wants, and it wants to see the mad scientist, Scott Brown. They actually made up a sign and put it in the Jeep.
That's awesome.
For my, for the transport north. So I had a very nice time, kind of visiting with them and loading up. Is
the Jeep on the trailer resembling a Jeep at least?
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and I don't want to disturb the connection. Savage was texting me and was like, "Why are you not sitting in the Jeep?" Oh boy, there we go. There it is over one of my shoulders. This camera is so, I can't get my head out of the way, and the camera.
We sort of see.
I was gonna say you could just walk out to it. It wasn't that bad when we were testing it.
We don't want to give away too much.
So there's a beautiful yellow Jeep. It's topless because it's from Southern Florida. So that'll be a challenge for us. I mean, it is what it is. We've had topless Jeeps before, but it's gorgeous, and it will be a great challenge. It is a fantastic, the way that Greg and Scott's brains work. This is right up their alley as far as being the lead mechanics of kind of insight and direction on this particular finishing of this Jeep. But anyways, here's the kicker, right? I started driving north. And again, it's a little under 3 hours on I-95, which is, just the massive through lane from from top to bottom of Florida. You know what I didn't commit to memory?
Which Walmart you were at?
What Walmart I dropped their tire off at?
Did you have the paperwork?
What paperwork?
Neil.
Jeffrey?
It's Neil. He doesn't have the paperwork.
What paperwork do I need in life? I have I'm Neil Simpson paperwork.
That was here's your paperwork. I don't need that. You can throw that away.
I don't need no stink of paperwork. We don't need no paperwork
Jeff
where I'm
with him.
going.
Jeff's the one that gets the paperwork done.
Right. That's why we have a Jeff. That's why we have a Jeff. Right. So what Walmart? Do you know how many Walmarts there are from New Smyrna Beach down to just north of Miami? A lot.
I was gonna say probably no shy of 200.
No, I don't know. There's so many. So
were you calling them and be like, "Hey, did somebody drop off a trailer tire and it's now abandoned there?"
I started calling them. I did. I started calling them, and I'm looking for the receipt. And for the life of me, I can't find the receipt. Right? I can't find it. I know I kept the receipt from when I picked up some of those essentials. I said, right? I'm thinking that's my only chance to find this place.
There's one other way you could have done it. Did you pay with card? Did you pay with card? Did you pay with card?
I did
log
pay
into
with
your
my
bank.
credit card. I did, and it just says Walmart Corporation, and because it was a pending transaction, I didn't have any authenticated data other than a generalized Walmart thing. And
Your
Jeffrey,
sister just logged in. Your sister just logged in and says, "OMG, you lost a Walmart."
I lost a Walmart, and I take it one step further. I go into my Google Maps. Because here's the thing. I remember there being a V and a couple other alphabet soup letters that came after it. Okay? I have a V and a couple other alphabet soup. So I'm like, all right, so that limits me to how many places? I got to tell you, there's a lot of funny names in Florida. There's quite a few. And there's a lot of
Scott L just said, "I have to go to a meeting. You're leaving me on a cliffhanger if I still have a wheel."
Yeah. It was touch and go. You may or may not. I'll be honest with you. Because at one point in time, I contemplated how much I really wanted this wheel back. I'm doing cost-benefit analysis. How much does it cost? Is Walmart going to charge me? Because I had to put it under an account associated with my name and my phone number. Am I going to get charged for this? All these things are going through my brain, right? So I'm like, okay. So I go into my Google Maps and I find that this Vero Beach is in my Google Maps. Oh, okay, that doesn't sound familiar, but it says that in my Google Maps that I Googled it today. So I guess I'm going to go there. Oh, I'm already 31 minutes past it. I'm already 31 minutes north of it. And I was supposed to swing off the road. So this is when I'm cost-benefit analyzing, going, do I just buy Scott a new wheel and tire? Do I just buy him new stuff, right? And so I'm like, I don't know what to do. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, what happens if I get stranded on the side of the road? I've got this beautiful high-dollar Jeep I just picked up. Well, what am I doing then? This is an insurance policy. Okay. So I spin the rig back around. I start heading south. Now I'm trying to call these Walmarts because I tried calling them, and I really do appreciate our Walmart workers. I understand the struggles that it is to work in retail, but to get somebody on the phone who actually wants to and I understand the stupidity of answering, did somebody drop off a trailer wheel and tire to get surface?
I'm going to interrupt you real quick because Ken Kushner had logged on right at about the beginning of the story. He said morning. Now he's saying, what in the world have I logged into?
It's a train wreck per the usual, right? So I'm thinking, so they don't really want to help. I mean, they do want to help, right? Because it's kind of their job, customer service, but they're also like you're the loser who's misplaced a wheel and tire. Sir, are you sure you were at this Walmart? And I was like, no, I'm obviously I wouldn't be calling to ask if you have a wheel and tire there for me, if I'm sure I was there. So I promise you, I
How many did
I
you
get
call
home
that
and I-
didn't even have a service shop?
Stop it. I did. But I got a woman and she's like, sir, are you sure you dropped it off today? No, I'm not sure because I don't even know. Like, yes, I'm sure if I dropped it off today. I'm not sure if it was at your place. And finally, I'm like, I'm losing time. I was like, okay, thank you so much. Obviously, I'm sorry for wasting your time. Click. Okay. I get off the highway. I turn south. I'm like, all right, I got to do something. So I get off the highway and I find a gas station. It's a pretty easy on and off this particular ramp. And I'm like, okay. So I'm headed north. I'm like, all right, I got to find gas because obviously it's not that Vero Beach that Google says I was at, and I remember it being a V, but whatever. And those of you who remember, I've run out of fuel. I've run out of diesel in the truck before. It's not pretty. I really didn't want to do that, so I'm trying to be like Scott Brown and fill it up after I've burnt just an eighth a gallon. It's still 3/4 full, and Scott Brown, he's always on the edge of a seat. Can't be on empty, right? So I'm like, all right, I need to find some diesel because clearly I'm not finding this trailer tire. And so I'm headed northbound again because the next Walmart is actually back where I just was. So I find the receipt at the gas station. Okay. I find the receipt and it happens to be in Melbourne, Florida. Okay. Melbourne, Florida. And it's on Wickham Road or North Wickham Road. So I Google, because now, again, I'm trying to be time conscious. I Google Walmart, Melbourne, Florida, Wickham Road. And I throw it in the Google and I'm off again, right? So I'm headed northbound and the GPS tells me to get off the highway. I pull off the highway and I'm like, this does not look familiar, but maybe it's just bringing me in a back way or something, So I'm driving a little bit more en route and I'm like, this is just not right. Nothing about this is right. It was right off the exit. I've now traveled a mile or two off the exit and this isn't right. So I'm like, I'm frustrated. I'm like, what the heck? I Google Melbourne, Florida, Walmart. Do you know how many Walmarts are in Melbourne, Florida? The fact checkers don't get excited on me, but I can promise you that there are 2, but I'm almost certain there are 3 Walmarts in Melbourne, Florida, 2 of which are on Wickham Road. 2 on Wickham Road. I can't make that up. I was literally the difference
James
between
just logged in and said that you can't make this up. And he's laughing
1,000.
at it.
Yeah, it's true. 1,000 Wickham Road and 8550 North Wickham Road. There's dose Walmarts on Wickham Road. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I see you, Destiny. You cannot stop me. I will get this trailer wheel and tire despite your best efforts. So now there's also a rocket launch. So now
There's
James
4 Walmarts. Just fact checked you. There's 4 Walmarts.
Why?
2 of them are on that road.
Why is that the case?
Dawn says, "You sir make my bad days better," with a laughing face.
I think we should, at this point, just table the suspension till next week.
Yeah. At this point, we have to. We've got 30 minutes left of the episode total.
Because I'm not done, right? I'm just telling you, I'm only giving you a
You've
highlight.
got 10 minutes left of this story.
I don't. I will try to. There's a rocket launch, okay? James had told us. He was like, hey, this would be really cool. We have seen one of these Space Coast rocket launches when we were up in the Outer Banks, the 4x4 beaches up there. It was awesome. It was so cool. The whole sky kind of lights up and you can hear this crackling noise. I was like, okay, I kind of want to see it, And my wife is like, hey, it's at 7:00. And I'm like, the service center closes at 7:00. I'm going to miss the rocket because I need this darn wheel and tire because I've committed entirely too much energy to defeating fate at this point to receive it. Okay. So I'm on fire. I'm good. I'm focused, laser focused.
James just said
And-
one Walmart for each old folks home.
Pretty accurate for Florida.
Florida. So I go ahead and I get into this. I get off the ramp. I'm like, yep, this is all familiar. I dig it. I'm here for it all. Right. I get in. I get to the auto service center because nobody who lives in Florida is from Florida. It's like Las Vegas. Everybody's transplants. The gentleman at the very nice gentleman who had processed my situation hails from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And so this was the time where he wanted to reminisce and share longingly about his childhood memories of that beautiful city, which is cool if I wasn't already, 11 hours behind schedule and desperately, fighting an uphill battle to get this trailer wheel and tire and wanting to see a rocket shoot across the sky. Okay. From the Walmart parking lot. I'm thinking I'm prepared, right? I don't care. I've set my expectations. I know where they're at. Okay. So I get out of there. Again, it was very appropriate. I get out of there a minute or two from 7 o'clock. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to see it. And I'm so excited. And then I'm getting notifications in the truck. Obviously, some type of hands-free device, folks. And I'm getting a notification that the rocket launch has been postponed. And I'm like, oh, man. And I'm trying to update my wife accordingly and, our party accordingly to say what's going on my end. And I just, there was the rocket launch and the long nature of the day. And I had already kind of lamented it's such a neat thing for us by the nature of what we do and the people that we're able to reach, that I'm able to be communicating with our customers in a physical touch point, picking up, dropping off Jeeps. And I get to look at road signs that say Miami and Jacksonville, right? That's cool. I had already shared that with some people close to me. So I see some signs like that and I get onto the highway and I'm like, whatever, I'm thinking I got rockets on the brain and I've got this long, crazy day of losing this trailer wheel and tire on the brain. And I hit the highway, right? And I zone out because I'm just throttled down at this point. And I just hammer time, right? Because I had a long drive home. I got 5 hours north to Charleston. Do you guys know where I was going?
South?
I was headed back to Miami. Took me a real long time to figure that out. Took me a real long time.
You're like, man, I keep seeing these Miami signs. Wonder why.
Why are there Miami signs? They're real proud of Miami. So they wanted you to know. It's like that moment you're in Ohio to there's a spot in Ohio, the Ohio-Pennsylvania border that has a sign for New York City.
Yes.
I mean you're just literally about as far as, you're still a day away from New York City basically, and you've got a sign to tell you how far away New York City is. I'm thinking, but whatever, we're just proud of that. No, it is because I got on the southbound because I had just went straight, muscle memory. Oh yeah, hey, I did this once already, and I'm headed south. I promise you, remember that time where I doubled back to Vero and swung around?
Did you use the
time
same
that
parking lot?
This same exact situation, same spin around. Here I am doing it for the second time today.
Ken just says, Neil, now you know what having a stroke brain does to you.
Ken, I can't imagine what folks go through, and that is an unfortunate insight to what that must be like. But I did a great tour of Central Florida several times yesterday. I managed to turn, a one-way trip, about 2.5, 3 hours one-way trip into a solid 4.5, 5 hours when all was said and done. And it should have been a 5-6 hour round trip from port to pick up and pick up to port. basically. And I turned it into like an 11-hour day, with still the necessity to travel into Charleston. So I had, at the end of the day, I think I told Jeffrey this morning, I had about 18 hours, kind of on and off windshield time yesterday. So, and it's totally all legal, folks, logbook and, all that stuff.
James says sleep deprivation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I gotta tell you, I'm enjoying what it is we do. And again, James, you gotta have to go back and scrub the beginning of the video. And I talk about how generous and how hospitable you were, and just our ability to, to be able to transcend just not just the shop and how we communicate and work with our customers, but literally head to their homes and be part of these really cool experiences is such a fortunate piece for us. So, yeah, it was an adventure. And I still got a cannonball run from here in Charleston to home tonight. So to make it for a morning meeting tomorrow.
The fun part about that is you were talking about how you were explaining your hours this morning to us, but you had messaged and said, are you familiar with the term sleep blind? To which I said yes.
Time blind.
Sorry, time blind. And which I said yes. And then and then you said we need to talk about that kind of on the American Hustle podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my reply was, why? All you have to do is open a dictionary and it's a picture of you. So
and I felt that. I felt that in my soul.
It really fits with your story.
Here I was trying to like reach out to you and be like, here's some self-reflection moment, and maybe this is an opportunity for me to kind of grow and develop some different, better understanding. And you were just like, jab and twist of the knife.
That's Jeff for you.
Yeah. Just kick me right with
Glad
the teeth.
Glad I could help.
Yeah, I said you were feeling quite sassy this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, to say the least. So we'll see what today entails. I really hope for an uneventful drive home, but as was mentioned at the beginning of the program, there are these really crazy wildfires happening in South Carolina, and when we got into town in the middle of the night, 2+ a.m., I kid you not, there was smoke as thick as pea soup. And I mean, that brought me almost to a screeching halt on the pseudo highway that we were on, and put on my four ways. And, we're kind of, again, this southern kind of no man's land of South Carolina. But we looked it up, and it should not, the area that we were in should not at all have been affected by any of the wildfires. So this is completely unofficial reporting in any capacity, whatever. But it was like something was going on, and it was, just thick pea soup, smoke, fog stuff. It just reeked of wood smoke, and you couldn't see through it. And so it's really interesting, but we're going to be heading northwest into the state. And I understand all the people being affected are more of the East Coast. So, kind of, if you happen to be a Jeeper and listening to us, our heart goes out to you, and hopefully, you and yours fare well. But kind of an interesting, almost little scary situation to run into last night ourselves, So don't know what it was about, but it happened, So.
Well, hang on, because we're gonna go to our outro, but then obviously we want to talk more a little bit after the episode here.
Sure. What are we doing, Jeff?
What's that?
What are we doing?
It was the outro,
That was the outro.
Oh,
we think.
I don't know. And anyways, so I have to say, I'm a little disappointed that the most recent YouTube video is doing so freaking good.
Yeah.
And I'm disappointed because you have me acting like a fool at the beginning of the video, and that's the one that takes off.
It happens.
Maybe there's a reason it's taken off. Maybe maybe it's your stellar acting in the process.
Davey walks up to me this morning and he's like, hey, did you see we're over 20,000 views? I did, Davey. Thank you. You didn't have to point it out.
And you say you don't want to be in front of the camera.
I don't want to be in front of the camera. I prefer being behind it.
Totes. I get it. I get it. As you picked and poked at sound buttons this morning, going, I don't know how this works, but we'll figure it out. Which we did reasonably enough, you know.
Yeah,
which
whatever.
we did reasonably enough. Yeah, I'm you know, if people did or don't get the message, and obviously I really haven't got to touch base with you guys, our team back home on the video and whatnot, our expectations, but you know, and I think that enough people listening to us, I guess this is my moment of sharing. When I first started out, I think while we've never been like exactly the pirate 4x4 forum characters, we had a very tough demeanor. I have a very like serious disposition when we first started, and we were really out there trying to grind hard, you know. And I think all too often the industry has swayed to kind of taking themselves entirely too seriously, and maybe we've gotten away from a little bit of that just kind of camaraderie and decorum that the Jeep community has espoused for years. And so Davey and I came up with that concept of the kindness shirt that I wore for the video. And I really freaking love the nature of that shirt. And it says kindness, it's a Jeep thing, give a duck. And it's 100% meant to be a play on words. Like, it's a little tough. It's meant to be like a little bit of a tough sentiment. Like, you should give a duck about being kind to other Jeep owners. Like, we don't need a whole lot of unnecessary drama in the community. And if you are an individual who's creating that unnecessary drama, maybe there's an opportunity for some self-reflection, like me and my time utilization.
I don't know anything about that.
What's sad is this is just what we always did. We just didn't record it before or talk about it on live before. But many times me and Neil have accidentally messed up or screwed up things traveling around, doing these kind of
question.
stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times I ended up in the wrong state. So,
Yeah.
it just happens.
Well, and that's the thing, is now we just, again, try to share with other people and have a lighthearted experience about, what the Jeep life is like,
Yeah, I mean,
what goes into it.
It's like my wife's family being from Iowa. I've made that trip. I worked in Iowa, lived in Iowa for a couple of years. I've made that trip hundreds of times. And one of the times driving back, all of a sudden I've seen signs from Michigan. I'm like, I don't remember those signs before. And then I realized I was in Michigan. I'm like, how did I do that?
Oh, God.
Just on autopilot, just driving.
So
And you enjoy the adventure where it takes you.
So real quick, fun story about I-95. One of the times I was in Florida, we always went to Ocala area, and there's a area called the Villages there, and the main mode of transportation in the Villages is with golf carts.
Right.
And one of the traffic jams while I was there was caused by an old couple on their golf cart going the wrong way on I-95.
Are you sure it was an old couple and not Neil?
Jeffrey, stop it. Time blind, not spatially blind.
No, but you would absolutely do something like that. It'd be a race. You'd be racing somebody with the golf cart and end up going the wrong way down the road.
You guys were asking like what Jennifer and Erica shenanigans were about. At one point in time, there was a legitimate conversation about whether or not we were prepared to drive north in the southbound lane. What's the worst that could happen to us? And that was the suggestion that they brought to the table. What's the worst that
I
could
stand by
happen?
my statement. Are you sure it wasn't Neil and not some old couple?
I promise you. So that was Erica's suggestion, and Jennifer wanted to get out and walk during the parking lot party because she wanted to get her steps in, and it was hot in the truck, and I could just pick her up at the exit. We'll see how far she gets, and if I don't reach her, then she'll just double back.
Yep.
Good. Get out and walk with 10,000 plus of your favorite friends who are just in modes of transportation, ready to snatch you up and,
In her pink sundress.
in her big sundress. That makes perfect sense. There was people pulling off to the side of the road to go bathroom. There was a trailer that decided, like a truck and trailer that decided to pull off the road and just do some maintenance on their truck at the time. Not like breakdown, but literally just leisurely got out and they started to do some maintenance. Watch them, work on the trailer a little bit. Thought this was a good time to make that make sense.
Well, when you got nothing else to do, why not?
Yep. Or drive north in the southbound or south in the northbound, whatever.
Scott, do you have anything
what did
exciting?
you guys do? What's that?
I was just asking Scott the same question you were, apparently.
So pretty much I took naps this weekend.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You weren't feeling
Because I
good.
wasn't feeling good. And I had a do or die. I had to be better for Monday. And I am not a nap person.
Right.
But the
What?
only
You've got your old man chair that you just sit in and fall asleep. What do
Well,
you mean you're not
so
a nap person?
the only benefit to
Absolutely has an old
this,
man napper. It absolutely does.
Thursday before I got
You're
sick,
eating those cookies. Those look good.
we went and bought a new
Delicious.
mattress.
Homemade. I don't even know where the camera's at. Delicious homemade chocolate chip cookie. Oh, they're soft. I sat next to it long enough. I'm like, nope, I'm doing it on air. I'm good.
Whatever.
Anyway, Thursday we went and bought a new mattress because my wife woke up that morning and said, "You know what we really need?" I said, "A new mattress, like I've been saying for the last 2 years." And she said, "Yeah, I hurt. I'm all over from our mattress." I said, "Yes." So we went and did all that. What I wasn't prepared for, but is life changing, is we got a new base for the bed, and as a free upgrade, you can raise the front where your head is up and down. And we could have got even a fancier one where your feet go up and down as well. But my wife was like, "No, we just need the head part.
That's too
She
much.
hasn't tried anti-gravity
It's too
yet.
much."
That's too much indulgence.
Do
We
you know
don't
what's
need that.
really nice when you're sick?
Having the head prop.
Having your head propped up.
Yeah,
What a game
that's
changer. So
That's awesome.
the way the universe works.
Yep.
Right. And we wish you best and a healthy recovery.
Well,
Need,
I'm feeling better. And hopefully I don't.
Power through. Good.
So,
And Jeffrey?
It was a kind of a relax at home weekend. I did some more work on the garage, getting some more insulation hung and getting that going. I had a somber moment over the weekend because one of my uncles passed away, Marine
Oh, I'm
vet
sorry to hear that.
down in
Right.
Florida, actually.
Okay.
So they gave him last rites Thursday night, I think it was,
Mhm.
and he lasted until yesterday morning at 7:10, because he's a stubborn Marine and didn't want to go.
Awesome.
But he, as a kid, I remember growing up, he was, in the Marines when I was a young kid, so he would send home like the big aircraft carriers that he was stationed on. We'd have the toy ones, giant toy aircraft carriers to play with his kids. So a lot of good memories. He's largely one of the reasons I'm a Steelers fan. So watched a lot of Steelers games with him growing up.
Yeah. I'm sorry for your family and your loss.
Yep, but he's in a better place. He was one of the Marines that was affected by like the Camp Lejeune and all the crazy chemical things. He was in Desert Storm, Desert Shield. So he had a lot of
Yeah.
medical things going on. It's good that he's finally at peace.
Good. We owe a lot to those veterans, so I
Absolutely.
understand that. Well, I think that's a nice, appropriate moment to take the podcast down, kind of show how, the diversity of what we do.
Absolutely.
My phone is going to be running out of charge, so I think this is a great opportunity to close out. If you were looking forward to Suspension Chronicles, that'll have to be next week. And we'll tell you everything you never wanted to know. If you're having trouble sleeping, I will ramble on about suspension till the cows come home as much as we possibly can.
Yep.
So that will be a perfect bedtime story for you if you need that.